Welcome back, everybody. Louise here in Sunfleck with Gillian. We are on episode 3 of our series, our very last episode, and we'd love to talk with you today about boundaries and rituals. So, I suppose I really like to start with this episode asking Gillian about how you feel about the the boundaries that we need in order to prevent kind of like burnout, or how do we incorporate that in with like reducing stress and anxiousness?
Yeah, thanks, Louise, and great to be back. I can't believe it's episode three
I
all
know.
already, and there's just again been such a lovely response from people. Um, so I suppose when I work with people and it's around managing stress and it's about, becoming aware of where they're at and where they want to be, inevitably the topic of boundaries comes up.
Yeah.
Interestingly, people have a fearful response to boundaries because they feel, it's something that's going to upset somebody, or, that there's going to be some kind of reaction, or they have to do things differently. So, again,
Mm,
I would be exploring people's beliefs around change. So, some people will say, "Oh, I hate change." So, already you're blocking yourself from showing up differently, choosing differently. So, what I
yeah.
encourage people to do is not look at boundaries as what you're saying no to, but it's what you're saying yes to for yourself.
Mm,
So, the kind of coaching that I do is always bringing it back to yourself. And so, what is it you need and what it is you value? And so when we look at, our values, what's important to us, and where we are creating time to align with our values. So be that in the jobs that we do. So you and I were just talking before we press record how we really love teaching what we learn.
yeah.
So, the workshop that you're delivering at the moment, which I'm going to on Friday, can't wait.
Mhm.
And I've just come back from my last week of facilitating a journaling class
Yeah.
with people. So that very much aligns with my values. So that gives me energy. And when we look at, uh, I suppose where our energy is being depleted, that's where stress is. So stress, again, our needs not being met. So the more
Mhm.
we discover about what we value and what we need, we create then what I would call a list of non-negotiables. So how am I choosing to align with my values, in my day to day, in my relationships, in the work that I do. And when we
Mhm.
have those non negotiables, then we have to put a boundary around that. So it's about what we're saying yes to. So I'm saying yes to working in the community a little bit more, getting out and teaching. But for other people, it can be getting out in nature. So I need
Yeah.
to get out in nature, so therefore, I really need to put a boundary around working at home, turning off the laptop,
Okay.
maybe disengaging from the phone, to make time and space for the things that really lift me up. And so when I go into companies and I talk about avoiding burnout, it's really not associating burnout with the company. It's associating burnout with the choices that you make yourself. So sometimes what we can do is we're making choices from an insecure place. So therefore, we're not making the time to really commit to ourselves. So people often burn out. That's what I was trying to say. I couldn't get the word often out. Um, Often burn out because they have a fear that they're not enough, so that they need to be doing more and more all the time. And so they start to choose things that don't align with their values.
Yeah.
And so really making that list of non-negotiables. So that can be, getting out in the golf course if you're into golf, or going for a walk, meeting friends.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
Um,
how do you start with your list of non-negotiables? Like, where should you start with that?
Okay, so I would often encourage people to look at what their values are. So you can go online and you can do a quiz. You can go to my website, thewellnesslounge.ie. In the Wellness 101 section at the bottom of that page is a quiz on values. So what you walk away with is a list of what your values are. And there's some self-reflective questions there. And then you have to look at your life and say, okay, where am I making space for this? So if you value health, what are you doing on a regular basis to align
Yeah.
with that value? So naturally, for some people, that might be, oh, I need to do my food prep or I need to go for a walk. If you value fun and adventure and you realize your life is like work to bed, then you need to look at, okay, where can I maybe reconnect with myself again and do something
Mhm.
fun and adventurous? So it's becoming clear on what your needs are through looking what your values are, and then designing your list of non-negotiables. Your not non-negotiables are just you meeting your needs. And I
Okay.
say, basically start very kind of like slow and easy. You don't want a
Yeah.
list of 10 non-negotiables. So often what I see with people that, in group talks or one-to-one or just even with friends as well, it's the commitment that you make. So I've just, as I said, finished a journaling class. So they've all kind of committed to what their journaling practice is going to be. So for some of them, daily, for some of them, it's weekly, and for some of them, it's a coping mechanism. It's a tool that they'll go to the journal when they want. So for some of them, it's like, I want to do my gratitude. That's a non-negotiable until I get into the pattern of it. We have to see what it gives us. So our non-negotiables have to really kind of give us a return and investment. Otherwise, what are we doing it for?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again, I will see people who will go off track and they say, I used to go walking every day and I loved it. It
Yeah.
cleared my head. It gave me a bit of clarity. It was a bit of me time. So, okay, I'm going to commit to that. And I need to put a boundary around that. So, what is that? Okay, I'm going to get up earlier because the kids get up for school. So, I want to get up earlier and I'm going to go to the gym or I'm going to go for a
Mm.
walk. Or, once I've got the kids settled in the evening, I'm going to go for the walk. So, it's a conscious decision that you're making that is giving you what you need, that will really help minimize stress, because again, it's a need been met, that you need to be clear around what the boundary is. So I need to get up earlier or I need to go to bed earlier, and there's
Yeah.
all these kind of parameters that need to be set for you to meet that need. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It actually, what you said there really reminded me of an interaction I had with a customer recently. And they basically said, came in with the issue of not being able to sleep. And sure, when we got into it, then it was actually just that they weren't making like enough time for themselves, like didn't have boundaries around things, didn't have their non-negotiables in the day that basically was like helping them to look after themselves. And
Yes.
actually, one of their comments was, what used to really relax me was doing some yoga or like reading before bed, but actually I've kind of given it up. And when we got into it, it was that they didn't have a space that they felt like nice doing it or comfortable in. So like that customer then left here with a scent and a plant and then said, you know what, I actually have other things in my house and a space in my sitting room that I could create a corner to do my yoga and sit down and do some reading. And like that was that customer in that moment thinking, I actually need to do something for myself. I need to have my non-negotiables before I go to bed so that I can sleep better. And that was all. I could see it happening real time in their in their brain, so
Yeah, and
important.
it's a returning to a practice that, for whatever reason, life got in the way, we fall off
Yep,
the wagon, we deviate. But
things
it's
happen.
like the gift of coming into your shop, having a conversation where you ask a question and she's reminding herself of something that was really beneficial to her. And that's just life. So
Hmm.
that's what's wonderful about, having these conversations. This is what coaching does. This is what sometimes, like, going online and watching a talk, we're reminded of certain things. And it's not always, becoming something. It's sometimes returning to who we are,
Yep.
but stress has kind of got in the way. Another fun thing is there was a lifestyle coach. Her name was Cheryl Richardson. I think I might have mentioned this a few weeks ago, and she talked about the
Yeah,
absolute yes list. So again, that is your non-negotiables. Your absolute yes list is all the things that you choose to say yes to this week. And again, the
I
weather is
love that.
kind of nice at the moment, so someone could say, "I'm going to say yes to getting out for a 20-minute walk every day this week." You put it up in your fridge, you have a bit of fun with it, and then you notice your resistance around it, because that's
Yeah,
you breaking the old pattern and moving into the new pattern. But sometimes there's something very strong around the language of non-negotiable. It's not up for discussion. I'm just going out and doing it. And sometimes it's like that's the parenting of ourselves as well.
yeah. It almost feels a bit like you almost don't want to do it then because you forced yourself into it. But like you said,
Yeah.
if literally all you do is pinpoint your most important values, if it
Yes.
aligns with it, then like you should enjoy it really. To a point. Obviously, I know like our day to day routines can sometimes get in the way of the important parts, but we could associate them all together. Like your rituals into your day routine, which is going to work or minding your kids or walking the dog. It could all be incorporated, couldn't it?
Yes, because I find when you start asking yourself powerful, self reflective questions, such as what's important to me, you'd be
Mm,
surprised at, the amount of people who will say to me, I've never asked myself that before.
yeah, yeah,
And I'm like, yeah, I get it. There was a first time I remember, and again, it was probably about, 8, 9, 10 years ago when I was like, what is it I need? And, what's important to me? And when you start to discover yourself and you just start to discover, who you are, what you need, that like organically over time, you start to make decisions based on those values. So
mm,
right now, your life may not really be fitting around that kind of like vision you have, but organically over time, the more familiar you'll probably find yourself just, you know, looking at things differently,
yeah,
choosing differently, and you start to align with the vision. If you had said to me 10 years ago, I'd be living down in Youghal by the sea, giving a journaling class in a community centre on a Tuesday afternoon, I'd be like, are you nuts? Like I was going around
you'd
in
be
my
like, what?
company car, working 70 or 80 hours a week, burnt out, no boundaries.
Yeah,
And again, the intention wasn't to, oh, I'm going to live in Youghal and give a journaling class, but that's what happened over time as I started to choose in alignment with my values, and non negotiables became very important to me. It's not really about, restriction, it's more about alignment, if that makes sense.
yeah. I
So,
think that's a really
it's
nice
more about,
view.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's a really good slogan for a t shirt, actually. I should patent
Yeah, we get
that.
them printed. And like I suppose that also brings us as well to like the questions that people asked us before we started this series. And actually most of them were on rituals. And you've
Mm,
actually explained that in order to make rituals, you need to first, identify your values and what's important to you. But I
mm,
suppose if we were to give people ideas then of like what a ritual looks like once you have found what's important to you and how you get on with your day, for most people, they kind of say to me, like, it's how do you start your day or how do you end your day? I suppose the middle of the day gets taken up with all the busy things that we have to do. And we've talked about taking things off the list if it's too much. But I suppose morning and evening, waking up or going to sleep is so important for people.
oh, yeah.
I suppose, what would you say is your kind of like morning or evening rituals that are your non negotiables, important part of your day?
Yeah, so like definitely in the last 10 years, the morning time, I've become very aware of how vulnerable I am in the morning time with
Okay.
regards where my mind goes. So, my story for those of your kind of, listeners or community that don't know, I have experienced burnout quite a few times. So I would wake up with this, what do I need to do? What do I need to do?
Mm,
And the mind seeking, what I need to do. So, it's very important for me to practice gratitude in the morning. And there used to be a commitment to journaling, and that still exists. But when I wake up now, I actually say thank you for being alive. And I remember the
mm,
first time I heard someone say that 10 years ago, I was like, that is so cheesy. So I understand when that doesn't resonate with people, but over time, It makes so much sense for me now.
Oh.
So just taking that moment of absolute gratitude and then, looking for other things to be grateful for as I, rise and shine. I think I mentioned before that I have committed to this spiritual practice every morning. So I log on for 45 minutes every morning and we do a lesson. It's a Course in Miracles. So I've been doing that now for 2 years. And so that's a commitment.
Hmm.
And there's mornings like this morning I didn't get up because I was awake quite a lot during the night. So again, it's okay, if you don't make it
Yep.
as well, that's okay. So the
Yep.
morning time has been an opportunity for me to really catch my thoughts and to go into the day with a clear intention. So gratitude and intention, and anchoring myself in that. Because when you anchor yourself in this kind of sense of, not being enough, I need to do more, you're going into overwhelm and anxiety,
Yeah. Straight
which will
away.
then have a knock on effect. So just noticing that, the days where the thoughts are heavy and that overwhelm exists, I go to the journal and I
Hmm.
will journal, journal, journal. So for me, that is now I work for myself. So, again, unless I have a meeting that will take me away from it, I will, make journaling a non negotiable until my mind is at a more peaceful
Hmm.
place than where I may have started in the morning. So, again, it's just that real kind of checking in. There's grass outside my door there. I will go out and put my feet into the grass.
Yep.
If I am feeling that kind of anxiety, that drive, that fix, fix, fix. Um,
Yeah.
and then, I'll use breath work as well. But just to say, like, I didn't start with all this. I started with 3 things to be grateful for. But now I have a toolkit and I'm very kind of, what do I need? What is it I
Yeah.
need? So I ask myself that question a lot. What is it that I need now? I think I need breath work. I think I need to journal. I think I need to put on my runners and go for a 15-minute walk. So I'm continuously asking myself, what do I need? And that's a very new space for me. So that's kind of morning time and evening time, it would be kind of reflecting on the day. And again,
Hmm.
sometimes journal and sometimes just in the head. And again, just
Yeah.
practicing gratitude.
Okay. It's really nice. Like it just shows like how different we all are as well. Like, and there's no such thing as somebody being perfect or having the perfect morning routine. I feel like that's flogged a lot on social media, and I don't think that's very fair because not only are we all different humans, but we go through different points of our life. We change a lot without even realizing it. And also, we need different things at different days. Like, I think this year for me has been really accepting that I need more sleep. That
Yes.
I realize I feel better if I sleep longer. I was really forcing myself in the first kind of year to do a business to get up really early and just like get into the day. But I realized that I actually feel better when I have more sleep and I don't wake up feeling like my brain is so full. So I know that a slower start is better. The fresh air definitely helps. Like I
Yes.
know not everybody has the time, but oh my God, like it literally wakes up my brain, but in a way that I'm not like I don't feel anxious about all the things I have to do. It's more like it feels like making space in my brain
Yes.
to
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
think about things more clearly, like you said, like starting your day more
Beautiful.
clearly. The cacao has been a massive
Yes.
game changer in my day because like one of my non-negotiables would be like looking after my gut health because I've always struggled with my gut health since I was a child, and cacao has like changed that for me. Like instead of having a coffee or even actually instead of having my food first thing, it makes me feel warm. It's very like relaxing and comforting, but it actually starts my metabolism again so as well, so I feel better. And then if I can fit it in, I'll do like a bit of yoga or movement that like I for me that kind of feels like or like almost like a forced breath work. If I feel like I don't have time to sit down or I can't concentrate long enough to like meditate, the yoga will force me to do the breathing. And that's been really important to start the day and think
Ah,
clearly. And I think for evening, like it's more just trying to switch my brain off because it can be so intense in work or just like you get a lot of ideas or a lot of thinking. So it's just, making dinner with my partner and then making sure we go to bed early enough that I'll get my full night's sleep, but we
yes.
both read before
Yes.
we go to bed, and we don't speak because
Yes.
we don't want to talk about the day, because we're like, at that point we should be helping our brain to switch off. But we both
Beautiful.
love reading to help us sleep. And like, I don't even get through much of it now, and I go to sleep really
Yes.
quickly. So
Yes.
they're really important parts of my day that, look,
Yeah.
some days they just don't happen, but almost
Yeah.
every day, most of
Yeah.
those things will happen, and they're so important.
And they are so important. But like what I want people to know is if I had observed a conversation like this 10 years ago, I would have felt so far behind
Yeah,
from what you and
true.
I are discussing. And I just want people to know that like it takes time to develop and
Yeah,
understand your needs and, tune in with, you were saying there about your gut health or, for me to say, what is it that I need right now? Am I
hmm,
okay with this? It's been a process and it's been a journey, but what helped me to start was the gratitude. I can't emphasize how
yeah,
much gratitude's changed my life because it was asking myself the question, what am I grateful for? And the way my mind was wired, or the mindset that I had, was more of a victim mindset. So it was like life is happening, to me, against me,
mm,
things always go wrong, which,
yeah,
really led me to kind of start the day and what I needed to fix. And so it was almost this kind of struggle and strive. And now I just simply see the world differently. But that's been a process of continuously committing to change and growth and personal
hmm,
development. So, like, some people get that from the cacao, some people get that from a walk. Some
yeah,
people get that from reading, journaling, or, yoga. What I feel that it needs to be is something that helps you to connect back with yourself, to
yeah,
have a conversation with yourself where you're not looking out, you're kind of just more reflective in. There's always an opportunity in the shower in the morning to just say, okay, where am I at? How am I? What am I grateful for? Because often you'll find is people in the shower in the morning are thinking about what is going to be happening today, the meeting in work, collecting
yeah,
the kids, the schedule, da 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 da, and all that. And so it really is taking moments and recognizing them where they can just kind of, turn in, but having gratitude, because it's nice to have a little kind of a tool or a ritual that you're asking yourself. Because often when people haven't any experience of speaking with themselves in a conscious way, because we speak to ourselves subconsciously all the time. We're in conversation with ourselves, and it's usually like, you need to do this, you didn't do that, you got that wrong, blah, 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 and all that
yeah,
natter. And so when we actually are more conscious about the conversation that we have, that's when we discover who we are. Like, I would never have known that I was a creative person. I would
hmm,
never have realized that I have a calmness within me, or, that I love community and connection, that I'm so much better than I ever thought I was,
yeah,
because I've aligned more with who I actually truly am, as opposed to the persona that I had developed, that I felt that I needed to be. And so that might sound a bit woo woo or deep for some people, but it's, amazing because you're breaking through all the barriers and all the limitations. And so, just to encourage people listening, that started with gratitude. Three
hmm,
things to be grateful for. And I didn't even write that much. I literally was like, I'm grateful for my coffee. I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for that. And I feel like I said this the last time as well. And then slowly but surely over time, I was writing pages and pages. I mean, in the house here, like I have about like 12 or 15 journals,
oh,
full. I have like here beside me on the laptop, I have my current journal, a beautiful one a
yeah,
friend bought me. Those who don't believe in magic will never find it, Roald Dahl. So like
oh,
and people are gifting me lovely journals as well. So, it's just about discovering, I feel like every person knows what gives them that time and space to connect to themselves. And it's just about making that a non-negotiable.
yeah. I love that. That it, like, it makes a lot of sense, and it all, like, these things always sound so simple, but it's until you actually hear someone say it, or like you hear it at the right time. Because sometimes you hear these things and it just kind of floats
Yes.
over your head because you might not be ready to do anything about it. But like,
Yes. Yeah.
I probably never sat down and said, like, "I am grateful for da da da," but I suppose I'm naturally, like, kind of an optimistic person, and I used to always just think, "What am I happy about in my
Yeah,
life?" Or, "What did I
yeah,
see today that makes me happy?" And that's kind of the way I've always tried to think about things. But,
yeah.
like, definitely since, like, owning a business, your brain changes a lot, and you have to really force yourself to go, "Look, I'm really grateful for what I did for myself," do you know? And I think that's kind of what triggered me to be like, "Yeah, I need to pick things in my day that make me happy." And that's kind of the way
Yes,
I see it. So everybody
yes,
will be
yeah.
different, won't they?
I mean, 100%. And like, I wouldn't have been a naturally optimistic person when it came to myself.
Okay.
So, like, what gratitude did was actually start to rewire my brain. Now, I didn't sit
Mm.
down going, this is rewiring my brain. But, over the last 10 years, science has shown us that, like, you can actually, change, the wiring of your brain, the neural pathways. This is all about, using affirmations, looking at your limiting beliefs, practicing different kind of, I suppose, behaviors or thought patterns. So there's a little bit of commitment in this, but over time, you do see things differently.
Yeah, 100%.
And so for some people it's easier that they just go, oh yeah, no, I've always thought that.
Mm.
I listened to a podcast the other day. It was first published in 2023, and it's that comedian Kyla Cobbler. She was
Oh,
big
yeah.
on Instagram over lockdown. So I think she's from Cork originally, and she is living abroad. So she's a comedian, and she is very funny, obviously. But the podcast that she was on, it really showed a different side to her, this wisdom that she had. So she's always had this knowing that, she's more than her body. And what she meant by that is that she's a soul. So she sees herself as a soul that's in a body. And so because she goes, I don't know why I know that or why I believe that, but I've always held that belief. And I just thought, wow, that's a belief I'm trying to adopt now and trying to kind of like not identify as my body. Women can sometimes be so critical on their shape and
Mhm.
their weight and all those things. But because she has that belief, she naturally wants to look after her body because she's like, this is my home. This is what's housing me. I need to look after it. So I guess the point that I'm making is it is different for everybody because
Yeah.
it depends on your beliefs. It depends on your experiences. But the thing is, if you want to experience life differently, then you can actually start to practice new beliefs, change your mindset, and have a boundary around the old and adopt the new. And it takes an awareness, and there's nothing better than journaling to really become clear. When I was asking the ladies in the journaling course that I just finished, I would be facilitating conversation of what they were getting throughout the 4 weeks with journaling. And it was clarity, clarity,
Mm.
clarity, clarity. And one lady was saying today, I started to choose better for myself. I started to recognize where I was going down one road with kind of my thought patterns. And I just said, I can leave this alone now and go about and have a nice day. And I thought, wow, how empowering. So
Yeah.
you can see again, rituals can be in your choices and your daily practices, that you're just choosing better, that you're having kind of clarity. You might go to the journal. For one other lady, she was like, I go out and I walk and I do affirmations. So she has an app that gives her an affirmation and she goes walking and she just claims that affirmation as her truth. So, I think some people have beautiful practices. We talked the last week about a space in your house and an altar that may not
Yeah.
speak to everybody. So there's an opportunity when you wake up in the morning, what you're saying to yourself, when you're having the shower, what you're saying to yourself, when you go to bed in the evening, what you're saying to yourself. And journaling allows you to express without, anyone judging it and just putting it down on paper. And then you kind of go, oh, okay. And as one woman said earlier, I feel like when I'm putting it on paper, I'm letting it go. I thought, isn't that
Mm.
wonderful?
Yeah.
So, there's so many things there that you can just kind of commit to. You can try, you can see what it's giving you. And again, with your non-negotiables, you always want to get a return on investment. So, just because you're saying cacao, I'm saying gratitude, people might go, yeah, that doesn't really work for me. What works for
Yeah,
me is, I go for a sea swim or I meet friends and I have a chat. But it's about finding and just noticing what it gives you and committing to that.
I think that's a really nice way to end the series. It's
Yeah.
basically like choose something for yourself, isn't it? Like it's all about just looking after yourself in some way, you
Yes.
know, to make life happier or more content
Exactly.
or, as much as you can. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's lovely. Thank you so much, Gillian.
Thank you, Louise. I've really enjoyed our conversations and I hope people have too. And hopefully we will collaborate again in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening. And any questions, please let us know.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.